Hello, everybody. This is Byron Lehman, and once again, this is the Jittery Goat YouTube channel. And I also have a website. It's the Jittery Goat, and you'll find it at jitteryg.com. That's where you'll find my short stories, vignettes, and also links to my novels on Amazon. So I hope you stop by and take a look at some of my books and some of my short stories also. This morning, what I'd like to do is introduce you to, or link you to one of my short stories on the Jittery Goat, and I'll put the link down in the description section of this video. It's called Gin and Jealousy, and I'll just kind of let it go at that. It's about a man and wife, and it's about gin, and it's about jealousy, and so I think it's something that you'll enjoy, and I think it's a you might say it's an exploration of morality. And I don't think that we should ever be afraid to read books that are moral. Without, we don't have to read a religious book uh, to find something moral. Moral principles, we can find them in any book. And what are moral principles? Well, sometimes we can know them intuitively without being religious also. And anyway, I think you'll enjoy the short story, but there was something I wanted to kind of pass on, and that is, I think stories have to be logical, and I think morality is logic. It makes sense to do good things to people because you'll have good results, and you'll feel good about yourself, and that's the idea behind morality. It's not to put people under the yoke or to chain them to something, but so that eventually they feel good about themselves. There's logic to it. Logic. The Greek word logos, which means word, from that the word logic comes from. In other words, things have to make sense, and morality makes sense. So writers have to do that. They have to make sense of the world around them, and that's what they should be doing. And because life itself is chaotic, but writers have to somehow make logic of it so people can use the information to make good decisions. And in this story here, Gin and Jealousy, it helps us to see that there's things that married couples should do intuitively without feeling religious. It's just logical for them. And so that's where I kind of lead folks when they read this story. And the thing is, I think today that we think that we have to accept everything that comes down the pike, so to speak. We have to accept movies that test the limits. We have to accept art to test the limits, or we have to accept avant-garde writers. Writers and people can read whatever they want to read. But I think readers expect something more when they read. I think they have to deal, that there has to be a logic to it. And some things that we read, excuse me, are not logical. For instance, you might remember, was it Heller? I think it was, anyway, wrote Catch-22, which, is a nonsensical look at World War II or at war in general. It doesn't make sense. The writer has to make sense out. The reader expects that. And I think that as a writer and as writers, we have an obligation to lift the standards or the morality of people. And again, people might think, well, is that forcing morality on other people? No, it's not. It's like I mentioned, it's forcing logic on people so they can think correctly. And that's what we want to do as writers. I recall several years ago, a young writer, I was talking to a young writer, or they wanted to be a writer and they were young. And I think they might have wrote a few things. And they said, I'm a writer. I can explore anything and obligated to write about it. Is that logical? Well, no, because writing, everything has its limits. And I think the limits are with moral principles. A writer does not have to write everything that pops into his or her mind. And so when we write, I mean, we do write about people who do bad things. But I think we're obligated to show that's a bad course of action. They're not rewarded for it. And in the end, right always wins out. And to do so in a logical way, showing that the bad is not logical and the good is logical. And I recall, again, I've referred to this a lot of times because I think it was the first book that I read that really moved me. And it was when I picked up the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Read the book, and it's a terrible story. It's about an injustice to a black man or to black people. And when I read that story, I remember I didn't see it as a black and white issue. I just saw it as injustice. But I knew that it was a black person this was being done to. And it caused me to think. It uplifted my thinking, elevated my vision or the way I looked at things, the way I looked at justice, the way I looked at different ethnic groups, the way I looked at different racial groups. It uplifted me. It changed me. Writing should do that. And I think that if you do write about a bad situation, you have to do so in such a way that it uplifts someone. And so much literature today is devoted to just showing the underbelly of human society and almost praising it as if that's normal or if that's something that should take place. And so this little story, Gin and Jealousy, it champions moral limits. It helps us to see that there indeed are moral limits. Now, just explain something here is when you read my short stories on the Jittery Goat at jitteryg.com, usually what I do is I try to keep the short stories within, I don't know, 2-3 minutes, or 2 to 5 minutes rather. And the reason why I do that is because I recognize that, first of all, the attention span on the internet is far, far less than what you did. If you pick up a book, you're obligated, you'll continue reading it. Or if you pick up a magazine, it's something that there just seems like there's a difference in the media that's used. So I try to keep them within 2 to 5 minutes, let's say, of reading time. And I think this story here will take 2 or 3 minutes to read, and you'll get the full impact of it. It's something I think you'll think about later on, and I think you'll be glad you read it, because I think that there's a lesson there. There's a lesson that can be taken away, and it's just something that individuals can think about, whether you agree with the morality or not, or the principles, or what the people in the short story do or not. That's up to you to decide. But it's logical what they did and how they acted. Okay, I think you'll enjoy it. So remember, I just want to leave you with this: is remember to do good stuff, read good stuff, write good stuff, and by all means, see good stuff in others. We'll see you next time. Bye now.